Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Steve Ferguson. I am an admission advisor at the University of Rhode Island, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to an evening with the URI Honors Program. We have a really great agenda lined out for you all, and really excited for you to be able to engage with us and participate through using the chat room, through a few interactive polls that we're going to have a little bit later on. And hopefully you can all get a lot of questions asked and answered this evening about the benefits of being at the University of Rhode Island, but more specifically, being engaged in our wonderful honors program that we have here. So what I'm going to do right at the beginning is I'm going to walk us through the agenda. But before I do that, I would love it if everybody could type in the chat room. I just want to know a little bit about you. I want you to put your first name, I want you to put where you're from, and I want you to put the major that you might be interested in studying at the University of Rhode Island. And I love to see the chat room start to populate as we discover what people are joining us from across the country. And I know we do have a few folks joining us internationally as well. So please, as this evening goes along, feel free to engage with myself, with the staff and faculty members that are here so that we can make this as enriching as possible for you. So after you finish hearing from me regarding the agenda, we're going to get to the exciting part of the program. We're going to hear from Dr. Karin de Bruin, who is the director of the honors program. And Karin is going to provide an overview of that department, the exciting things that they're doing and hope to do in the future. Following Karin, I'm going to moderate a discussion where we have a few current URI students who participate in the honors program who are going to share about their experiences in the program, in the classes, and what value the honors program has added to their experience here. Following the student presentations, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Carl Aspelund, who, in addition to being a faculty member at the university, is also the assistant director of the honors program and very much involved in the leadership and direction of that department. Following Dr. Aspelund's lecture, because he's going to provide a lecture to you all from one of his classes at the university, we're going to have an opportunity for a question and answer session where you can ask questions of any of the faculty and staff members, as well as the students, myself. Any questions that you have, we want to get them answered this evening. Following that question and answer session, we're going to adjourn the honors part of the program, but we're also going to have an add-on at the end of it, where we're going to hear from Dr. Joyce Wu, who is involved with the URI Chinese flagship program, which is housed in the honors program. So Dr. Wu, at this point, do you mind giving just 1 minute about what you're going to be speaking about in that session after the question and answer portion?
Sure, thank you. So honored to start first. So I know many of you are here, or almost everyone here is here to hear about the honors program. But do you like food? Do you like dumplings? Have anyone watched Kung Fu Panda? What year is it this year? It's a year of the snake. Okay, if you love any of that, if you want to think about using the other part of your brain to learn another language, stay until 8:15 to think about all the great benefits that learning Chinese could provide to you. And we have a lot of scholarship information waiting for you if you start learning Chinese in the fall as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wu. So again, after the question and answer portion, Dr. Wu is going to give a more in-depth presentation about the opportunities within the Chinese flagship program, and I can't wait to hear all about them. But now we're going to turn things over to Dr. Karin de Bruin, the director of the honors program, and she is going to provide an overview of that department. And also, again, as she goes along, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. Myself, the students and staff will be monitoring and we'll be able to answer any questions as we go along. Please do re-enter questions if a couple minutes have gone by and you think your question might have gotten lost in the shuffle, and we'll be sure to circle back to it. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Karin.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to see so many people here. Gosh, like 430 already. Well, welcome to our presentation on honors. You heard from Dr. Wu because the Chinese language flagship program is actually partnered with the honors program. And we would love for you, if you would like to learn more, stay on because there's honors classes that count towards your honors program completion requirements. It embodies the spirit of study abroad and immersion in language and cultural competency that we find important in honors. It embodies the concept of depth, breadth, and complexity that we value in honors. So I really encourage you to stay on for her presentation afterwards. I'm going to share with you a little bit now about the honors program. So we here in the program you heard me just say depth, breadth, and complexity. That's really what we're all about. We want you to think about your journey in academia. We want you to think about what you want to go deeper into. So likely in your major, but once you're in your major, what do you want to go deeper into in your major? We want to push you beyond your major because life's problems are not disciplinary. We want to expose you to new ideas. We want to expose you to new perspectives. So we're a group of very curious individuals that value intellectual exploration, that value thinking about complex problems with this depth and breadth lens, if you will. And I mentioned another word, which is complexity. In the honors program, we will push you to think with complexity and to think about complex issues. And we do that through what we call looking at local manifestations of global problems. So we are a group of thinkers and doers. We're excited, we're engaged, we're passionate, and we want to help you also discover your own calling in the honors program. So the honors program requirements, I'm not going to bore you with these, but suffice it to say that it's just 6 classes. And we have an extraordinary opportunity through something that we're piloting right now called honors contracts, and I'll come back to that. The types of classes that you're going to be doing in honors, we have our honors foundation course. So when you come in, we want you to come into URI and not feel like, oh my goodness, I'm at university. I don't know how to navigate the university systems. I don't know what the resources are here at the university. I don't know who to talk to if I want to think about fellowships or if I want to think about study abroad. We want you to come in and we want to provide a support for you right away, which we do in our Honors Foundation course. So this Honors Foundation course connects you to the campus. A lot of you might not know that we have a Bay campus. So we try to get you to look at issues that are at work in the Narragansett Bay. And if you come to Welcome Days in the spring, push your parents to stop at the Narragansett Bay campus. It's got a beautiful beach. The Endeavour, I think it's called the Endeavour, our research vessel, is that right? It's called the Endeavour, right? The Endeavour might be there. We're getting a new research vessel, which is exciting. We have, while they're not moored at the Bay campus, I think that's only the big vessel that's there, but we have smaller and medium-sized research vessels, and we usually even have a course coming this fall. So if you come to URI, you might be one of the first people to take advantage of our new course that takes students out on a medium-sized research vessel to look at, what do you do on a research vessel? And in this course, you learn to captain a boat, you learn to back up a trailer, you learn to do all kinds of very, very basic things too, which is kind of fun. So those are sort of bonding type activities. Anyway, that's not the foundation course, that's a different course, but the foundation course gives you exposure to the Bay. It gives you exposure to the Kingston campus. And so you'll look at local manifestations of global problems right on the Kingston campus. You'll follow sort of your own journey at looking through these problems. We've had students that have worked on the food systems and composting on the Kingston campus. We also take you out to our North Woods because we're a land and sea grant university, which means that we have a very strong concentration in terms of research in both land and sea. So we try to show you that. We try to show you out in the land, so, how the land is important to us. And you might not be a sort of land research kind of person. You might be studying nursing, but well-being in forests is a very important thing to physical well-being. I won't bore you with a book that I'm reading right now about the neuroaesthetics and how nature sort of activates happiness in us. But nevertheless, we'll get you out to the woods if you want to go to the woods, and we'll get you to know the campus. And that's just in our foundations course, which is our onboarding course for you. Then we have another example of a type of course that we have in our honors program is called the URI Honors Colloquium. And it's this past fall, it was entitled Democracy in Peril. And what you're actually looking at is some nationally renowned speakers that came to campus to talk about democracy. And our students took course. You'll see the last name you probably recognize, but I'll play it again so you can see it. The students actually take the honors colloquium course, and you get to interact with all of these nationally renowned speakers, sometimes internationally renowned speakers on these particular topics, both in class and then at our public lecture series, which is in the evening, which is actually what you were seeing there in that video. And something really cool is that we invite you to dinner. So you like at 1 or 2 times during the semester, you might come to dinner if you choose that's what you want to do with some of these speakers and get to sit down at the table and talk to them. Our president and provost regularly attend these talks because it is the premier lecture series on campus, and US students get an intimate setting with these speakers, and usually these lectures draw hundreds of people. Then we have, when we talked about charting your own course, we push you to go deeper in your major. I told you that we push you to go beyond your major. The deeper part is you can do courses that are H sections, honor sections of courses, or courses that are very interdisciplinary that may intersect with your majors. But you can also chart your own research pathway. So what honors contracts are they're independent projects that you can do in a non-honors course. So like within your major. So let's say you're taking a course, I don't know, you're a nutrition major, and we don't have a course that you're really interested in nutrition, but you're taking this incredible course on, I don't know what you study in nutrition, but let's say algae and antioxidants. I'm just making this stuff up, but but maybe you decide you want to like look at the red algae that's on our beaches up here in the Northeast and see if we can eat it. I don't know. It doesn't smell very good to me right now, but I mean, scientists do incredible things. And you might want to decide you want to do your own project on that, and you can engage in that. And it'll be a project of your own making that might be a little too ambitious for the 20-hour project, but nevertheless, just to give you an idea. And you can do these 2 to 3 times throughout your honors trajectory. And so you start to map yourself a research trajectory. And this is, of course, on top of the laboratory experiences that you have within your majors and that we encourage you to have. We have a lot of really great, if you're in the sciences, a lot of the top scientists, science researchers are also honors instructors. So you get to do cool stuff in their labs. Anyway, and then you go on, and then you can do your final capstone honors project. And this honors project, like I said, it can be something that's within a lab, but I'm going to show you just a few minutes of a non-STEM honors project. This is Caleb, who did an honors project in 2023. And he just wanted to make an oar, an Italian Venetian oar, as a sort of homage, if you will, to the Venetian Ramiers. And this is just a few minutes of his project. Let me just take you to 6 minutes roughly, if I can get there. And this is where he talks about it a bit. Hopefully the volume will work, and if it doesn't, then we'll just have to do it.
I've already said that I'm not a Raymer, but I
You
guess I
hear
should
it?
add that I'm no gondolier either. Just like I'm not a mariner, but I like to build wooden boats. And I'm not Italian, but I like to speak and read the language. I'm just a man in awe of shapes, forms and how they're formed. I think about thicknesses and planes. textures, ridges, curves, and undulations. I'm not carving this rainbow to use it, just to make it. Just to make it.
So as you can see, this honors, we've had honors students that may, like I'm thinking of one in particular who was a student of mine who did an honors project with me. He went on to be a medical doctor, and he did the whole pre-med curriculum, while he was at URI, but he was also a French major, and he wanted to do an honors project that wasn't related at all to what he was studying. And like I said, now he's a very successful doctor. And so he did poetry with me. He did pastiches of poetry. So this honors project is really your own. This is something that is sort of like a capstone, not to your major, but a capstone to your learning, if you will. And we're really excited for you to be able to do that. And then, oops. We also offer the Office of National Fellowships. The Office of National Fellowships helps you achieve national recognition for the work that you're doing, and it's usually compensated quite well. And so national fellowships include things that you might have heard. The most famous ones you might have heard of are the Fulbright, the Boren, the Rhodes, the Truman, the Marshall. And if you haven't heard of any of those, don't worry, you'll hear about them. Finally, everything that I said before, those are what we consider anyway, the real perks of the honors program, being able to take courses with people who are like-minded like you, that are intellectually curious, that want to talk, that want to learn, that want to make a difference. You're all in one classroom together. That to us is the major perk of the honors program. But we do offer, very, very, very robust advising. You have a life path advisor, you have an academic advisor, and we're always here for you. You get early registration starting your sophomore year. What does that mean? It means that, when you're a freshman, you're the last to register for classes. So there might be a really cool class that you want to take, except for all the seniors signed up for it before you, or all the sophomores signed up before you. And so early registration allows you to sign up before everybody else to get into the courses that you would like to get into. We have a really engaged student ambassador group that's always creating new activities. We were in the Makerspace just 2 weeks ago making t-shirts. We're going to try and get you into the Makerspace. We have a Lippitt Hall Honors Student Lounge that's just for you, and you can make your food, and we always provide food for you over there. And as we write here, these are the real benefits of the honors program. I won't read them all for you, but you'll hear from our students now, and they'll tell you about the benefits, that what they perceive to be the benefits anyway of the program. So if you have any questions, contact us, put them in the chat. I'll be able to stay with us until about 7:30. We have a little bit of a antibiotic crisis in my house with my kids, and so I have to run out and try and find antibiotics. So Dr. Aspeland, who is our associate director, Carl, can you just say a quick hi?
Yes, hello, and I'm delighted to be here, and I'm just so grateful you're all here. I look forward to speaking to you more in a moment.
And
So, yep.
Karin, before we move along, we've had a couple questions that I would like you to address. We've been answering them fast and furious in the chat, which is
Okay.
great. So thanks everybody for engaging. A couple questions I don't actually know the answer to. One from Charlotte is, do you know, are there honors courses available during J terms or summer sessions, or are they only available fall and spring semesters?
So we offer J-term courses, I wouldn't say regularly, but we offer them. We've been offering for the last 3 J-terms. We have a fabulous one that takes students around the film industry in Rhode Island. So students actually get to spend 10 days on movie sets and news sets and in the local movie and film scene in Rhode Island. So if you're looking if you're stuck in Rhode Island and not on vacation and you got 10 days and you want to do something fun, we've got that class for you. I do want to say that we count study abroad towards the honors completion requirements. So if you want to go somewhere and transfer your courses back, that's something that we accept. Some people don't know about the National Student Exchange. If you want to change universities and stay within the United States and take honors courses on the National Student Exchange, we transfer those back. And so there's many paths to completion of the program.
And then a few more questions that I believe I know the answer to, so I'll just address them now before we move on, is a lot of folks asking about if there is separate honors housing. There is not. We do not have separate housing for students who are in the honors program. The way that we place our first year students in their housing at the university, the default way, is for you to be placed in an academic living and learning community, which is dependent upon the major that you select. So for example, if you are an engineering student, then you'll be living with a small group of about 20 other engineers in the same area of a residence hall. And you'll have at least 3 of your first semester classes with that same small group of people. And so the university found that having these academically based living and learning communities where you really got to know that set of students really well, you were taking the same classes together, really helped to integrate you into that smaller community rather than having honors housing where you have a hodgepodge of different students taking all sorts of different classes. Having that academic similarity was really beneficial for our students. So that's why we don't have any separate honors housing, and it's just based upon your academic living and learning community. A couple more questions that I've seen was, do honors provide a GPA boost such as they do in high school? And that is a key difference between honors at the high school level versus honors at the college level. Honors classes in high school are like the same content but tougher kind of thing. But here at the university level, they do not provide a GPA boost. And in fact, in many cases, these honors classes provide more of a benefit to you rather than being more difficult, quote unquote. Something that I've found colloquially to be true from students engaged in the honors program is that due to there only being 20 students per section of the honors classes, the smaller, more discussion-based nature can actually make them almost feel easier rather than more difficult, which I think is a key difference between how honors function in high school versus how they function in college.
Hey, Steve, could I just add something really quickly there?
Of course.
Imagine I don't know if high school students realize, but at universities, like large intro courses, I mean, intro courses can be very, very large. So we're talking about hundreds of students in a class. You're all sitting in an amphitheater with hundreds of students. And we offer H sections, which are only 20. So instead of sitting in that class that has hundreds of students where you can't ask questions, you're sitting in a class where you've got the professor, the best professor of the department usually, and the most research active, who's right there to answer questions for you and interact with you and get to know you and promote your work and write letters of recommendation for you.
Excellent. And okay, I see many more questions popping up too, but I do want to continue going on with the presentation a little bit. So there will be an opportunity again to ask more questions as we go along. So people who are asking questions in the chat, keep asking them. We'll get back to them and answer them as we go along, but also we'll take some time towards the end of the presentation to make sure that we get all the questions asked and answered. So Karin, do you have any last words before you need to run out and go ahead and find your antibiotics?
Nope. I'm just thrilled that we have great interest. We love students who are interesting. If you think you're an interesting person, we want you. We're a program that's just filled with interesting people that want to just have conversation with each other, get to know each other, and who want to learn together.
All right. Thank you so much, Karin. Have a good rest of the evening. Good luck with your search.
Okay. Thank you very much.
To Carl to lead the honors program now. But before we hear from Dr. Aspeland, I'm going to take things over right now, and we're going to share some of the student experiences for current students who are enrolled at the university, who can tell you about what they have done in the honors program at the University of Rhode Island. So we're going to start things off with Camille. And Camille, I'll turn it over to you. You can introduce yourself and then go along.
Hi everyone, I'm Camille de Vasconcelos. My major is biological sciences, and I have a minor in chemistry and leadership studies. I'm a sophomore, and I'm from Charlestown, Rhode Island. So, as you can see, I've taken a Thanology class, Impact of Death and Behavior, my freshman year, and I've also taken Comm 100, and I'm currently taking Chem 112 honors. And you've heard a little bit about this from Ferguson and Karen, but the small classroom spaces are really helpful for learning, at least in my opinion. For example, in Chem 112, there's about 15 people, and the entire time the professor is asking questions, and it's true, you do get the best professor from the department. I've gotten very lucky with my chem class, and I love it a lot. And because these classes are a lot more intimate, you get to have a real one-on-one relationship with the teacher and honestly everyone else in the class, just because it's so small. And I've met some of like my best friends from these classes, so I really recommend any class. And they have such a variety of classes, from business to chem to bio to PLS, which is plant sciences, just anything you can think of. And I'm currently thinking of doing an HPR 401 project next semester, which is one of the requirements. And I was going to plan on doing that with my chem professor that I met this semester. So I've gotten very lucky.
And Camille mentioned something that I really appreciate there, that just the one experience can lead to the next and lead to the next. And just by starting to take one honors class at a time, you're never going to know what opportunity it's going to unlock for you or who you're going to get to engage with next. So thank you so much, Camille. And if anyone has any other further questions about Camille and her experience, you can feel free to drop them in the chat right now for sure. Next up, I'm going to turn things over to James. James, you want to take yourself off mute, introduce yourself, and go on ahead.
Okay. Hi, y'all. My name is James Berkeley. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm a marine biology major, minoring in oceanography. Okay. Just skip to the next. Thank you. I'll be going into a little bit more about Planet Honors, but before I do, I would like to mention that something amazing about Planet Honors was that I got to meet so many different people outside of my major. So a lot of times, specifically, I would be in classes with other marine biology majors or environmental science majors, but I met so many people, whether it be through the College of Business or nursing or things in that realm, which was pretty amazing. But to get into a little bit more about the Planet Honors course, so HPR 124, which we talked a little bit early on in the beginning, we kind of start off with three main subjects. But before we do, we get into the history of URI being a land-grant university, as well as paying a tribute to the indigenous communities and giving back to those communities. We do three different units, whether it be our food waste unit. My group, we kind of came up with economy. So instead of economy, it's eat, because I love food. The second one was a project on our Northwoods, which is right off of campus. And so it was more about stewardship of the Northwoods. But the third one was my favorite. As a marine biology major, I chose my final project for that class to be on the third, which was managing microplastics in the Narragansett Bay and the Narragansett Bay campus. So what you might see on my screen right now, to the far right, that's my deliverable. So for each project, we had to give a deliverable. And it looks a little silly, but I was able to utilize the makerspace to do so, which is accessible to all students with high-tech fabrication equipment, 3D printers, things like that. But my project was to design a deliverable of an oceanic microplastic buoy. And so on the left, you'll see something called Microtexture. It's created by a brand known as MicroWorks. It's a environmentally friendly substitute to plastic made out of mycelium, which is a component of mushrooms. Then we also paired with the local fishing industry to come up with synthetic sponge filters that could be made out of carapaces from crustaceans like lobsters or crabs. So instead of wasting that material, we'd be able to use that and create a synthetic filter, which could filter out microplastics, things of that nature. And to kind of support that structure, we added 2 different layers of 2 different sizes, as well as charcoal filter sheets. Sorry for geeking out. Charcoal filter sheets, which could filter out smaller nanoplastics. Obviously, this isn't a permanent solution, but by making it public for boaters in the Rhode Island, so we are the sailing capital of the state. So there's so many different people who have boater license or just boats in general. So just that and the Narragansett Bay campus or along Narragansett Bay would help support our cause. That's all I have. Thank you.
James, couple of follow-ups for you here. Now, there was a question from one of the students of how did you choose your project in Planet Honors? And then I also have a follow-up to that. Were you working, how many people were in the group working on this with you? Were you in the
Okay.
class? Lots of other people were doing other stuff?
Yeah. So we have those 3 units, and each unit at the end of it, before moving into the next, you had a mini project, which could count as your midterm for the class, and each one had to have a smaller deliverable. So at the end of those 3 units for your final project in that class, you choose one of those 3 units and you go further with it. So for example, my first roundabout with the Bay campus, instead of actually creating a deliverable, we focused more on microtexture and how it could be used as a filter, not going into specifics. But then one of my group mates in that group and I split off. So we had as many people from 5 to 6 people for those beginning projects, but I narrowed it down to just me and one other person for my final. And we went to the maker space in the first floor of the library, which is super accessible. And we were able to design this as well as do a little bit more research.
Thanks, James. And then there was just one more question that I want you to answer before we move on to our next student, but it's something that you touched on at the very beginning of when you began speaking, where
Yes.
Amalia asked, how easy is it to meet/make friends with students from other majors? And are there a lot of classes with a variety of majors? So not to lead you too much, I personally think that the honors program is a great opportunity for that, but can you tell us why?
Yeah, so I met one of my roommates in the honors program, who also happened to be friends with one of my roommates within my major. So it was amazing to get to know someone outside of my major. She's a neuroscience major, so normally we don't intersect, but through that honors class, I was able to meet a lot of people outside of my major. So I found that I do have a good amount of friends from honors, which is nice to say. And what was the second part to that question?
And are there are there other classes with a variety of majors involved? So how frequently are you just taking
Oh, yeah.
other marine
So
students?
I took a class this semester called threat assessment. So we learned about the threat assessment of universities. We also learned that the University of Rhode Island is considered one of the safest campuses in New England, which is woo-woo. But we also learned about threat assessments in movie theaters or threat assessment teams in hospitals. And that's something I wouldn't normally take. There was a bunch of psychology majors, neuroscience majors, and pharmacy majors, as well as another marine biology major in that class, which once again, I wouldn't normally take classes with those with people within those majors, but the honors program really does help you meet other people from other majors, which is why I like it so much.
And Carl, you had something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly, speaking of the other majors in the classroom, that's one of the really wonderful things about an honors classroom is the interdisciplinary nature of it. And I mentioned in the chat that I taught a class last year. There were only 10 students in the class. This was a 400 level class. The 10 students were from 10 different majors. So there you go.
I love that. Thanks for adding in, Carl. And now we're going to turn things over to our third student presenter, Jocelyn, would you like to introduce yourself and take things over from here?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Rodriguez. I'm a senior. My majors are biology and sociology. I am double majoring. I'm on the pre-med track, so I will be applying to medical school soon. And my minor is in leadership studies, and I'm from Norwich, Connecticut. So, to talk about my opportunities through honors, I've actually had a lot of them. One thing that especially stands out for me is my opportunity to have studied abroad. So, as you can see from these pictures, I was able to go to India, South Africa, Argentina. The photo of me in front of the Taj Mahal is like my favorite one. But through honors, they were also able to accept my credit. I had a lot of help from Dr. De Bruin to get my academic credit to count for honors. On this program, I was able to study policy and public health around the world and interact with diverse communities, live in homestays, and, even see some world wonders. And I even decided to take this a step further and base my honors project that I'm currently doing right now on what it's like to study abroad, the impact that it will have on students, especially for someone who is a STEM major. And another thing I want to point out about honors is the individualized attention that I have gotten by being in the program. An example of this is the class size. And I took an honors organic chemistry class my junior year, my sophomore year. And I had one-on-one time with the professor. I had him the entire year. And I know he was sick of seeing me by the end of the semester, but he has been such a great help. I even moved on to tutoring organic chemistry because of this individualized help. And he writes me letters of recommendations because I was able to get that one-on-one relationship with him, which is super important if you're considering grad school after undergrad. And the last thing I want to talk about is the unique classes. So the Democracy in Peril was actually a class that I got to take this past fall. So there were many parallels from that class to my semester abroad, especially when it came to like policy and what that's like in a democracy, as I did go to India, which is one of the biggest democracies. And on top of that, I got the opportunity to learn even more beyond what I did in any of my classes during this colloquium. And I still talk about a lot of concepts in my current sociology classes. And I even made immense connections with a lot of the speakers through the dinners. But overall, it's just been a plate of opportunities through the honors program for me.
And then Jocelyn, we've gotten a couple of questions in the chat that I think are particularly relevant to you. So you do a lot, right? You're a double major. You're also a tour guide, for those of you who don't know. On your first introductory screen, you had a lovely picture of yourself doing some sort of research thing in some kind of lab. So we got a question about if double majoring is overwhelming or how manageable you found your schedule, particularly when combining it with the other things in which you're involved. I would imagine you're not only in a classroom from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. every day, but how do you make it work?
So something that really helped me is how credit friendly the university is. So I was able to come in from high school with so many credits. I think I was a sophomore coming into high school in theory, which is why I was able to add a second major. But with everything I do, it was honestly just about time management and speaking to your professors. And I think because I took so many honors classes, my professors were always super, super understanding. I know one professor, he even understood that I had to do something for research. So he moved my Orgo exam so I could go to another state and then come back and then take the Orgo exam. So I think it's all about communication and time management. And honestly, if you have those credits, make sure they transfer over.
That's great. Thank you, Jocelyn. And so thank you to all of our three wonderful students who shared their experiences that they're currently going through right now. If you do have any other questions for these students, you can feel free to drop them in the chat as we go along. But right now, I'm going to go back and myself circle back and answer some of these questions in the chat. But for the next programmatic element, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Carl Aspelund, who, lucky you all, he is going to sort of teach you a little bit about what you might learn if you were to take one of his honors courses coming up. But I'm certainly not going to steal any more of his thunder. Carl, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, wow, thunder. I didn't know I was bringing thunder, but I'll do my very best. I'll do my very best, okay? So yes, I'm going to give you a little overview of a course that's coming up. And if somebody could give me a thumbs up to tell, okay, thank you. All right, so we have here, welcome to Interstellar Design. We're going to look at the concept of what I call omega designs and circular economies in the context of an interstellar voyage on a starship. And let me tell you a little bit about me first, because that actually informs a little bit about how I'm coming at this. And it's very important when someone is teaching you something or telling you something, it's important to know where they're coming from. Why does this person have any authority to speak on this? So something as slightly offbeat sounding as designing for interstellar travel, you might want to know why that person thinks they can do that. So, well, first of all, I'm the Associate Director of the Honors Program. I'm also an Associate Professor of Design and Design Theory. And I'm a visiting associate professor at the University of Iceland in ethnography and museum studies. Now, my doctorate is in anthropology and material culture, but I designed for theater, film, art, exhibits, and so forth for about 20 years as well. And I've been teaching in the apparel and textiles field for about 30-something years. So in the class I'm about to tell you about, because obviously I'm going to talk to you for about 15 minutes for something I would teach for 15 weeks, I am going to wear all these hats. And the main hat, the big hat, is the one where I'm involved with something called the 100-Year Starship, an initiative that's been on the books since 2012. So I've been a Starship person for 13 years. Now, I just want to mention very quickly, because this was brought up earlier, even though I'm just going to sort of talk at you here into the camera and show you slides, this is not how we teach in honors. Honors classes are active learning, discussion-based, experiential. So I will have some questions for you, all 400 and something of you. But just be aware that I'm telling you about a course. This is not the course, okay? So let's take a look, and let me tell you about the course a little bit before I dive into the material. So this is currently a course in development. This is a course that's going to be on the books in the year 26, 27-ish, just in time for your sophomore or junior years. So I will see you there. And it'll be at the 300 level, we imagine. Now, first of all, this course will explore the world of interstellar travel, which is a world that we are just on the threshold of getting to. And in order to make that happen, there's a lot of innovative design thinking that needs to take place. So we're going to delve into these challenges of creating sustainable living environments in this confined space of a starship. This is a multi-generational mission. The people on board will leave our solar system. They will not return to Earth. And so there's a number of challenges that we have to address. So what does it mean to be on the ship? What does it mean to be part of a crew that leaves Earth for a mission like this? Now, secondly, we would also be looking at the challenges of creating sustainable living environments, because these have to be completely self-contained communities, as you can well imagine. I call it, I have the Las Vegas rule. What goes on the ship stays on the ship. There is not a lot of opportunity for resupply out there. There are no outside resources. Any resupply would actually have to be sent ahead. They would have to leapfrog to places where resupply had been placed. This is tricky and not necessarily something that can be counted on. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a community where everything is recyclable, reusable, modular. Waste is minimized. So there's a big, big, big challenge there. So here comes this concept of omega designing. This is something I've defined as a method of design that goes beyond the normal scope of recyclability, repairability, and reusability. It's a holistic approach to design. I'll talk to you more about this in a moment, where everything is created to belong to a closed loop ecosystem. So you're not just designing the thing, you're designing the thing in context of that circularity, not just what it is, but what it can become. So something that becomes unusable is now usable as something else. This has to be part of the design process. This is something human beings have done, but not to the extent of survivability. So in order to actually create a starship, in order to leave our solar system, or if you want to back it up and take it into a more regional context, go to Mars, we have to think about durability. We have to think about modularity. We have to think about circular solutions that are so well done that they don't need to be redesigned. Hence the Omega, hence the final design, if you will. What goes on the ship stays on the ship. Now then, as you might already start to imagine from what I've alluded to, these design principles can also be applied to our home planet to foster a more sustainable future. Now, but before we go any further, I would like to invite you all on board the Starship. But Stephen, could you please poll our audience to see who would like to fly along with us?
I think I just opened the poll, Carl. I think we.
Thank you so much. I can see it. Yes. So let's see. Oh, we've got a pretty even split. We got a pretty even split. The stay-at-home crowd is winning.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, Carl, that's I mean, I'm 36, so I'm old and set in my ways.
How are you now?
That's a big commitment. I don't know if I just want to say goodbye to Earth forever.
Well, I'm 61 and I'm going. If you invite me on board that ship, I'm on it. Thank you very much.
So maybe I'll learn some stuff in the next 25 years or so that'll make me ready to get off this ball.
All right, I know where to find you. I'll come and harangue you until you're ready to fly, okay? All right. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing 20% would go. 1 in 5 of you will go. 60%, nope, not wanting to do that. And 20% are not sure. Not sure. If anybody who's not sure wants to put into the poll, into the chat, I can't see it, but maybe Steve, you can pick up a few of those. I'd be curious to know what makes you not sure. But anyway, I have to keep going because Steve hasn't given me interstellar time to deliver this. So let me dive in here for a second. So let me tell you about the Starship as such. So I belong to this research group I mentioned. And this group was seed funded back in 2012 by DARPA, the defense arm of the Defense Department, the Advanced Defense Research arm. And we were given the mandate to acquire, assemble, generate, inspire, otherwise muck about with the necessary knowledge to enable human spaceflight out of the solar system by the year 2112. Hence the 100-year Starship. And this initiative is led by the astronaut Dr. Mae Jemison, who was out in space in the 1990s. And we have been working pretty much on this for the last 13 years and will continue. Now, obviously, I just gave away my age, so at best, I might have 25, 30 years left to go. I'm not going to make it to launch, but I'm hoping that I will be represented in the manual whenever they do go. Steve, do I have any insight into the not sure crowd?
We do. So Z was unsure because they could have important work to do on Earth.
Excellent point.
What are their life circumstances that they're leaving? I assume, if it's a now question, then we could talk about that, like spaceships going right now. But if it's hypothetical 15 years from now, who knows what we're going to be doing?
Exactly. Very
I
good.
did really enjoy Caitlin's answer, and I think I know what scientific field she wants to be in. She would miss the fish and other animals too much. So
That is also an interesting point and I will come to both, interestingly enough, both Z and, was it Caitlin?
yes, yes,
Both,
Z.
both Z and Caitlin raised points that I will actually address later.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that. But since I mentioned May, that's a good segue. And interestingly enough, this all starts to make sense eventually. May is very fond of saying this, and this is actually one of the drivers of our intellectual approach in terms of what we're doing with the Starship, that what is required for survival in space is what is required for survival on Earth. And so all your disciplines, all your majors, everything you listed in the chat earlier, these are all things that will be important on a starship. We may not have fish, but we will need the biologists. We will need the natural scientists. We will need the psychologists and the educators. We will even need the strangest details, because this is a human community going through space. Now, human beings, notice that, these are creatures of our planet. And so it's not surprising that 60% of you want to stay here. But if we do go, we will bring our human needs with us. And these human needs have been formed by being on this planet with its resources and its fish for thousands of years. And what we've learned by studying how to exist off planet can inform how we survive on the planet. What we have learned in surviving on the planet will inform how to survive in space. Humans are what they are, and we're trying to extend their reach. Now, the Starship isn't a ship as such. It's not really a one thing. It's part of a fleet. We'd have 10 or 20 of these. There would be about 2,000 people on board each of them. So it's a small village going through space. These are self-contained ecosystems with very specialized zones for various functions, growing things, hydroponics, engine rooms, sleeping quarters, you name it. And solving this circularity and survivability on this starship essentially then means that if you've solved it for a 2,000 person community in space, you have solved circularity and survivability for any community on Earth. And this, again, becomes a very important point. Steve, could you bring us our second poll, please?
Yes, I have to stop sharing the other poll and launch the other one.
Okay, very good.
Starship life question?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Which of these challenges of Starship life do you think would be the hardest to adapt to?
Yeah, not a lot of space. Everything, every environment is artificial. You have a 2,000 person community, and that's what you get for the rest of your life. And everything is recyclable, no waste. No waste. How hard is this? What's the biggest challenge? Okay, let's look at these numbers tick up. The artificial environment is a problem. We want to go outside. Yeah, going outside is a problem. Do we have to build an outside in the ship? At one of our conferences, there was an artist who had come up with the concept of a room for weather in a starship, where you could go into the room and there would be random weather. You would never know what it is, and you couldn't control it. You couldn't choose it. You can't choose it on this planet. You would walk in and maybe it would be rainy, maybe it would be windy, maybe it would be snow. Maybe that's what we need. Humans need interesting things. So the artificial environment is a problem. Limited space is a problem. Social dynamics, not so much. The recycling, hey, we're good at that. Okay, 12%, very good. Thank you very much. Now, let us move on. Steve, you're gonna have to yell at me if I start running out of time here.
Now you're good. Keep going.
I'm good. Keep going, he says. All right, here we go. So basically, where we go next is we think about these physical challenges, and you think the artificial environment is a problem, the limited space, the waste, not so much. The effects of zero gravity might be problematic, but we would need artificial gravity. That's why they're cylinders. That's why they're donut shaped, because they would rotate to create that gravity. The psychological and social challenges are huge. We see this in small communities here on this planet. We see this in military outposts. We see this in submarine crews. We see this in Antarctic bases. It's very difficult to be isolated and confined for a few months, much less years. And the stress and mental health is something we have to work with. So why is this a design question? Because it's about comfort. It's about creating community. It's about not having stressors about things that don't work, about clothing that isn't good, about hygiene that doesn't operate. We have to design all this into the totality of the ship. Hence the Omega concept, total design, final design. Now, I've done work on clothing and food mainly. Well, I've done work on clothing, but I've been hanging out with the food people because this is very related. And the durability and the repairability of clothing is obvious. But then there's the modularity. If something tears or comes apart, do you just replace the sleeve, not the entire garment, and so on? And what about this food production? It's all going to have to be hydroponic. It's all going to have to be very dense vertical farming. They're doing marvelous work with this, by the way, at the University of Ohio in the terms of creating agriculture for space. And all of this minimizing waste, all of it minimizing waste. That is key. There is no waste. So Omega designing is a holistic approach. It emphasizes durability, modularity, and closed loops. I've mentioned the final design. And any aspect of the Starship life needs to be looked at through this lens. There's nothing, fuel systems, food systems, bedding, clothing, you name it, all of it has to be looked at through this lens. Now, quickly here, I just want to point out to you that we are actually doing some of this on Earth already. The butterfly diagram by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation here, you can look that up, is a very elegant way of approaching this particular question. And people are doing really great work in waste management and resource recovery. And the technology is getting better all the time. But just to point out to you here on this diagram, on one side, the blue side, you have the finite stuff. You have the machinery and the technology and the electronics, things that actually have to be taken apart to be recycled. On the left side, you have the green side, which is the organics, the things that rot, basically. And they go back to their beginning to be cycled back through a cycle of life. So you got these two cycles that you have to keep in tandem. You have to keep them going. The nutrients have to cycle back through the nutrient cycle. The minerals, the materials, the e-waste, all that stuff has to cycle back through that. And notice here, the decreasing size of the loops. It matters to have as short a loop as possible. Much better to have your phone, for example, stay as a phone for as long as it can be a phone, rather than having to waste energy and resources and time and shipping to pull it all apart and put it back together again. So that's the key there. Okay, so to start closing this down, we can bring this back to Earth. And some smart aleck might point out, well, you haven't left Earth yet, but okay. The thinking comes back to Earth. The Starship design is an inspiration for how to change things on this planet even before we leave. And we rethink our relationship with resources. We think of waste as a liability. Waste is a problem, not a built-in feature of our economic system. We don't want you to throw things away so you buy something new. We want you to keep something for as long as possible so we don't have to make a new one. And at the same time, we have to create more resilient communities. We have to be together in what is coming at us. There's plenty of this happening on the globe right now, and many of you are entering majors where you will see this firsthand in your labs, in your workplaces, the sustainable fashion, the modular and repairable equipment, the e-waste recycling, all these closed loop systems in water management, in all sorts of waste management all over the place, whether it's medical or otherwise. Anybody happens to be passing by Japan, visit Kamikatsu. That's a village that has an 80% recycling rate. I wonder if anybody knows what the recycling rate of a normal community in the Western world is. It's actually 5%. Kamikatsu has achieved 80% recycling by recycling everything they've got. Doing a great job. It's not 100%, but they're getting to Starship levels. So how does this serve right now? Well, in part, it doesn't really matter whether we're going to the stars or whether we're staying on this planet. The research for space serves the earthly community. And we do a lot of work in education and community engagement. So part of this course will be about that. And you can see a picture of me there at one of the Starship conferences with a person from South Africa, with a person from Northeast India, with a French astrophysicist over there on the right whose family comes from Mali. So a global reach right there. But always raising awareness about this problem. We cannot go to space unless we solve these sustainability issues. And this information has to be accessible to everyone. It cannot be proprietary. And we have to inspire action and change. So where do we go from here? I go back to May. I say what is required for survival in space is required for survival on Earth. We need to adopt this thinking that I call Omega designing for everything we do. We have to work towards zero waste. Otherwise, we can't get off the planet, and it may increase the likelihood that we cannot stay on the planet. And we have to innovate and we have to collaborate. We're all in this together. So thank you for listening. I hope to see you in my classroom very, very soon.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. That was enlightening and interesting. And as I told you before the call started, super cool because I've been listening to some science fiction book series and things like that. And it's really cool for me to hear that people are working on many of these things right now as we're looking at moving further and further into the science fiction reality coming forward. And I think the 100-year spaceship sounds like a really cool project. So thank you, Carl. Now I'm going to open this up to all of our guests in the room for about the next, I'll say 10 minutes or so. So it's a little bit after 8 p.m. Eastern time here. So we're going to give it until about 8:15. If you would like to ask any questions for Dr. Asplund, myself, any of the students in the room, we're going to go ahead and answer them as best we can. So some questions that I have received were in response to a question that I sort of answered earlier, which was about the housing question. So I'm just going to touch on that again. So the default way that our first year students get placed into housing is to be assigned to your academic living and learning community. However, that's not how all students choose to live at the university. If you would like to live with somebody in particular that you meet at one of our admitted student welcome days or during new student orientation or your bestie from home, if you want to live together, even if you're in academic departments, great, totally can. You'll just have to note that when you fill out the housing application. and it has to be mutual, right? So say like James wanted to live with Jocelyn, but Jocelyn didn't want to live with James, right? Then like, no, right? So it's got to be mutual, got to go both ways. But they'll honor those requests. And you may end up in your academic living and learning community, or you may end up in your friend's academic living and learning community. You don't get to choose where you would physically live, but you would still get all the academic perks that go along with it. You'd still have the same 3 first semester classes as that same small group of students. You'd be invited to all the same study sessions and everything like that. Let's see. I have a question here from Iwa that I want to direct towards Jocelyn. Jocelyn, the question is, do double majors or major and minors tend to be related, or can you kind of go wherever you like? So you can speak about your experience and then I'll add on a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess my majors are totally unrelated to each other. I'm biology and sociology, but they overlap when it comes to like the pre-med part of my studies because I'm taking the MCAT and everything is on the MCAT. So for me, I kind of picked up sociology just because I have a passion for it and I think it will help me be a better provider. But you can make those connections if you really want to. And my leadership studies minor is really very broad and it connects to everything.
We had a question about the neuroscience program, specifically from Ben, and I can speak just a little bit about it. So the neuroscience major at the University of Rhode Island is fairly new for us. I think neuroscience as a major itself has been around for about 10 years or so. It used to be a part of the psychology department, but shortly after we received an extremely generous gift from an alum to start up a neuroscience research center, we broke the neuroscience program out of psychology and made it its own major. And it has 3 unique aspects to it, 3 distinct tracks. One of them is clinical neuroscience, which is closely aligned to the field of psychology. Then we have molecular neuroscience, which deals more with the biology of the brain. And then finally, we have neuropharmacology, which is very closely aligned to pharmaceutical sciences and studies pharmaceutical interactions with the brain. There are honors courses for many students who are in STEM majors, such as nursing, such as pharmacy, such as neuroscience, that are introductory science courses, such as organic chemistry. The most common way for students to take a class like organic chemistry is for it to be in a lecture hall with between 80 and 100 students in that class. However, if you want to, and you're eligible for it, you can opt into an honors only section of organic chemistry, where instead of that larger group of between 80 and 100 students, you'd instead be in a smaller, more discussion-based component with about 20 students. So that can be a nice perk of the honors program as well. Folks who are monitoring the chat, are there any questions you wanted to chime in and answer right now?
I was answering a few things about independent research. This kind of just goes for everyone. I'm currently working in an undergraduate lab for research and growth rate of shark organs and a smoothhound shark. But I only got the opportunity by reaching out to the plethora of professors in the oceanography and marine biology departments. It's all about putting yourself out there, going down the list of emails and emailing as many people as you can, because there are a lot of professors that are willing to give undergraduates research. You just have to put yourself out there.
I'd actually like to add on to that too. So I've been doing research for the last pretty much my entire college career. I started my first year by emailing a professor, putting myself out there, and I started working in their lab, and it kind of snowballed. I got an opportunity to do the SURF program, and before that, the SURE program, which is a research program here on campus that pays you to do research and you get connected to more people. And then I also did another program through the university that connected me with neurologists and neurosurgeons at Rhode Island Hospital. And then I was able to connect with the physician and create my own project from the ground up for research. So if you put yourself out there, you will find those opportunities.
And one, changing the topic slightly, is one question that I've seen pop up an awful lot is, are there honors courses with this major? Are there honors courses with that major or this one? Or can I do this major and still be in the honors program? The answer to all of those things is always a blanket yes. You may be involved in any major of the 100 different majors that we offer at the university and participate in the honors program. And one thing that I think I've been very excited to see during the presentation tonight from Dr. Aspelund and Dr. De Bruin was the concept of honors contracts. And what this does is make the honors program more accessible for completion in a variety of different majors. Because some questions that I've also seen through the chat are, ooh, what about being a nursing student? Or what about being an engineer? You know, some of those disciplines that are kind of STEM heavy. Will you be able to complete the honors program, especially when you know that later on in your time, you're going to be doing clinical rotations and you're going to be taking advanced classes in nursing that aren't offered as honors classes because, of course, advanced nursing classes need to be completed by all of our nurses. We don't have regular nurses and advanced nurses. If you're going to come out with a nursing degree, then you're going to get the full curriculum. But what these honors contracts allow you to do is to do a little bit of extra work during the semester while you're taking that class and get it approved with the honors program so that you can get an honors credit for a non-honors class and allow easier path to completion there. And I think, Carl, you want to add on a little bit to what I'm saying there.
Yes, I just want to underscore what a good development and an exciting one it is that we are now piloting honors contracts at URI. This will make your paths through the honors program much easier to navigate, especially as Steve pointed out, with the more prescribed programs where you can translate those honors credits from non-honors courses to honors courses. And while you're doing that, form a closer relationship with the professor of that course while you're at it. So it's a total win-win, and I'm very happy about the whole thing.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. And I've also seen a lot of questions about coming in with some advanced credit, which is something that many of you are probably interested in. And I know it's something that's been a benefit for certainly Jocelyn during her 4 years here, being able to fit in 2 majors plus a minor plus studying abroad 17 times and all that fun stuff. So coming in with some advanced credits is fairly straightforward. If you're a student who has taken any AP, any advanced placement courses, then in general, you need to get a 3 or better on the AP exam. And if you have taken any international baccalaureate courses, any IB classes, those need to be HL, higher level classes, and you need to get at least a 5 on the IB exam. And I know a student asked particularly about UConn early college experience, ECE classes. I read a lot of applications from Connecticut, including Jocelyn, high five. And so if you're taking classes through another university, local community college, in general, you need to have a C or better in those classes, and then they'll transfer over to the university. Now, the way that you logistically go about getting these credits is if you choose to enroll at the University of Rhode Island, great, we're thrilled to have you. And a couple weeks after you choose to enroll, then we'll release what is called the advising intake form, which is a form that you'll complete that's going to ask you a whole bunch of academic questions that are important for your academic advisor to know before they meet you for the first time. So on this form, they're going to ask you things like, do you already know if you want to switch your major? Do you have a second major or a minor that you might be considering? How many years of a foreign language have you taken? What's the highest level of math that you've completed? Do you want to study abroad? Are you planning on bringing in any college credits from high school? And if you are, then they'll go about sharing that information with you. Another question I do get asked is, can these credits help me graduate early? The answer in some cases is yes. And something that we're particularly proud of as a university is that last May, so students who graduated last year, 12% of those students graduated early, finishing in either 3 or 3.5 years. Very significant chunk of our population is able to do that. For some of our majors, it is not possible to graduate early, regardless of how many credits you bring in, because of the particular requirements of that department. Those majors include pharmacy, nursing, engineering. For those programs, you're in it for the duration, but what those extra credits that you bring in from high school allow you to do is have additional academic flexibility while you are here. Makes it much easier to add on a second major or a couple of minors, makes it easier to fit those study abroad experiences in, particularly if you want to do them later on in your time here. So very credit friendly, as Jocelyn so nicely put it, and we really do a lot of work to make sure that you're getting credit for everything that you have done coming into the university. And while I gave that very long-winded answer, are there any of my fellow co-hosts who had things that they wanted to address verbally rather than in the chat?
Someone just asked how hard it is to get a spot in the smaller honors lectures for core classes like Chem and Bio. And it's not hard at all, just because I'm in Chem right now, General Chem 2, and there are 15 spots open in my class and there are 15 people. So it's usually pretty empty and you can always get a spot.
And I'll add to that the chemistry department is actually doing a really good job of adding honors sections to their courses right now. So as of next year, there will actually be even more chemistry courses available for honor students than we've had ever before.
Okay. Now, I'm certain that there are still some questions that I have possibly missed just because there were so many questions. But just one I want to take as we start to wrap things up is, got a question from Elena about our Welcome Day programs and if they discuss particular majors. And the reason Elena was asking was because the nursing roadie test drive event is full. So many of you may have been invited to events that are called roadie test drive programs that are coming up over the next several weeks. They're going to be starting in a few weeks and going until early March, and they're offered for each different academic department. Some of them indeed are already now full, and we can't accommodate any extra registrants for these events. But what other opportunities exist for you to come to campus, either for the first time or come visit campus again and get a more in-depth experience? So I definitely want to do plug those Welcome Day programs. At Welcome Day, you'll be able to get nearly the same or very similar academic experience as you would get at the roadie test drive events, but even more in-depth. And so at our Welcome Day programs, we're going to be having presentations and discussion sessions for each of our different academic departments. So you'll register for those sessions individually when you register for the event as a whole. You'll also have the opportunity to get a lot more information about our whole campus and the services that we provide there. You'll be able to meet with student organizations. You'll be able to meet with a variety of support services, including academic advising, our housing department, the Office of Enrollment Services, which helps to handle the financial aid process. You'll be able to do all that, go on a tour, come to another session, learn a little bit more about the honors program, maybe meet Carl or Karin in person, who the heck knows, get their autograph, right? So you can do all sorts of fun stuff like that at our Welcome Day events. And again, registration is not yet open for those events, so don't feel like you missed something, but they're going to be held on Sunday, March 30th, Saturday, April 5th, and Saturday, April 12th. And so you'll have 3 different opportunities on a weekend to come check us out. Now, Go ahead, Carl. Sure.
Yeah, I just since you're appointing people specifically in my direction now, I just want to emphasize that you can, of course, please be in touch at any time. Look me up on our website, send me an email. I'll gladly meet with you, exchange emails, set up a Zoom, whatever you need. Just get in touch, okay?
And a couple people asked some logistical questions about the welcome day too. So the registration should be opening in a few weeks. Everybody will get an email, multiple emails. You'll have so many emails and reminding you to sign up for welcome day. Question from Emily was if the programs fill up quickly. I wouldn't say quickly. I'd say usually you have several days before the first one, the first welcome day may fill up. We may hit capacity and want people to start registering for the second and third ones. But if it becomes an issue, you can send an email to us and we'll see what you can do for you. So I'm also going to drop my email address in the chat. If anyone has any questions that you would like to direct to me following this session, please feel free to do so. Another important thing coming up besides the Welcome Day programs is the release of our financial aid award letters, which is the next very important piece of information that you all will be receiving from the university. So if you have not already done so, please submit your FAFSA. Please submit your FAFSA. You must do this soon. May 1st is the final deadline for placing down your enrollment deposit. If you want to come to URI, we got to know by May 1st. And in order for us to get you your financial aid information before May 1st, you need to submit your FAFSA by March 1st. So you just have a few more weeks to get that in so that we can guarantee that we'll get that information to you. If you have already submitted your FAFSA, then we expect to have the financial aid award letter to you around early March is what we are currently looking at for when you'll have that information. And that's when you'll know precisely down to the dollar what your cost of attendance would be should you choose to attend the University of Rhode Island and hopefully participate in our wonderful honors program. Now, I'm going to pause this session right now. I want to thank our wonderful panelists. I want to thank everyone who joined. And if you would like to, please stick around and you can hear from Dr. Joyce Wu from the URI Chinese Flagship Program. She's going to begin her presentation in probably just about 2 or 3 minutes. So we'll take a quick pause here. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you had a wonderful time hearing about the honors program, and we hope to see you join us this fall. Thank you all so much, everybody.
See you soon. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Steve. So my name is Joyce Wu. I'm the director of the Chinese Flagship Program at URI. And tonight with me, actually, we have one of our student ambassador, Claire. Keling, are you here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
好的，所以可琳她的中文名字是可琳，所以可琳你可以跟大家说你好吗？
大家好，我是凡客人。Hi everyone. My name is Claire Swenson, and I am a Chinese flagship student as well as an honors project student. Yeah. Do you want me to say any more?
We can wait for that, and feel free to jump in when I'm presenting our program information. Okay, great. So why Chinese? So I'm happy that 80 of you are staying around, so that's great. So if you're interested in the Chinese honors program combined with Chinese, so if you want to start your venture in Chinese this fall, you can start with Chinese 111H or Chinese 311H if you had high school Chinese or you're a heritage speaker. So why Chinese, you might ask? China has the biggest population. I think India just passed us. We do have 1.4 billion people who speak Chinese. So if you want to talk to 1/6 of the world's population, this is a language you probably want to learn. And then it's one of the 6 official languages of the United Nations. And I mentioned earlier, if you love food, and if you love culture, if you love technology, many of you probably have heard about TikTok, the big TikTok migration to Red Note, right? So technology is really one of the modern China that we're looking at. And some of you might just want to have a challenge, right? So you're speaking English, if you want to learn something completely different, like a logographic kind of language, then Chinese is the way to go. But why study Chinese at URI? So first, URI has this special feature of combining Chinese with any of your other majors. We have students who combine Chinese with engineering, business, international studies, and diplomacy, and many STEM majors as well. And also, you probably don't know, but URI has one of the 8 Chinese flagship programs in the US, and we're the only one in the Northeast region. So it is a language flagship programs are aiming to develop global professionals with superior level of Chinese, which basically means by the time you graduate from the Chinese program, your Chinese proficiency is good enough for you to work in the federal government, looking at all the documents in the original language. So it opens a door for future employment opportunities. And also it cultivates deeper intercultural understanding. Our students will have generous scholarships for study abroad twice, one for a summer and one for a capstone year. Okay, so these are the fun facts that we're looking at. And don't forget, learning Chinese is also another way to develop the right part of your brain. So if you speak English, you're using most of your left part of your brain. But Chinese, Japanese, all these logographic languages will develop the right part of your brain. So you become smarter and more intelligent, right? So to fulfill the honors goal to become deeper, broader, and more complex, you have bigger brain, right? So here is our URI Chinese flagship Instagram. So if you're interested, please follow us. We feature a lot of activities there. I think this is really the program in a nutshell, but I do want to give Claire to a few minutes, 2 minutes maybe, to talk a little bit more about your experience at the Chinese flagship program.
Yeah, so I came in as unable to speak a word of Chinese. I just showed up one day because I heard about it through the grapevine, and it's been a really great experience. I came to URI with actually a double major in French, and I heard about the Chinese flagship program through my roommate, and it was exactly what I was like looking for because I wanted to learn a second language. So even though I didn't really have like any particular draw to learning like Chinese, I really found myself like falling in love with the language, and like all the teachers are just absolutely amazing. And as an ambassador, I've also like feel like I've been able to connect to the kids beneath me or not beneath me, but in the grades below me and the grades above me. And what's cool about the Chinese flagship program in particular is you get like a week of orientation, and then you go into what is just the flagship programs basically on campus. And then afterwards, you kind of go through all 3 or 4 years of, learning Chinese with them. And even though you guys have all different majors, you kind of come together and do homework and you live in a living learning community. And I'd say my best friends in college are a part of the Chinese flagship programs. And not only are we like diverse in our studies and wants, but also like diverse in our like reasons for studying Chinese. Yeah, both of my roommates actually currently throughout my entire career at URI have been in the flagship program. And I feel like we're a very tight-knit like community, but we also have our friends outside of the program. So I think it's a really good way to set yourself up in college if anyone's nervous for like going to school by yourself or eating by yourself. Like you don't have to worry about that. Just walking in, you instantly kind of have like a friend group. And what's really cool is that you also get to study abroad with these people, so you kind of develop those really tight-knit relationships because you're forced to be in a foreign country with each other for 2 months. Well, not forced, we very willingly go. But I think it kind of ties in the whole program kind of ties in how amazing our teachers are, and then also how amazing URI is with the experiences we get offered. I saw a question about joining it in your sophomore year, and you can, but you might just have to extend like the program slightly longer.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing my capstone. You're supposed to do it in 4 to 5 years. Yeah, this is Mandarin, not Cantonese. And I studied abroad in Taiwan. Sorry, I just see the questions coming in, but
Yeah. 谢谢可琳. So I think I see some questions here, and we can answer it one by one, if that's okay with you, Steve. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
Go right ahead.
yes. So usually we recommend starting a flagship program in your any language program in your first year, because the way that language curriculum sets up is that you start with 101 and it takes about 4 years to complete the entire major. So highly recommend to start in your freshman year, but if you have other reasons and you have to start in the second year, we're always happy to talk to you about your particular roadmap. And are you able to do multiple language programs? Yes, we have 6 majors in the languages department, and we also have many signature programs. You probably have heard about IEP, International Engineering Program, International Business Program, International Studies and Diplomacy Program, and the Chinese Flagship Program. So all these programs provide you different ways of combining different language with your other major. And all of them have the opportunity for you to study abroad, and usually with scholarship support. But I have to say, for the Chinese Flagship Program, because it is funded by the Department of Defense, so you get a really good scholarship to study abroad without worrying about money. So that is the selling point. Plus, most of our students, if you get a foreign scholarship in your 4th year to study abroad in your capstone year, there is a built-in federal service. So you can get an internship job right after you're done with your college, which is usually the first step to get into federal service. I have a student who is now being a visa officer in the Guangzhou office representing America. I think it's very, very cool. I met him for dim sum when I visited Guangzhou, so he's one of our best students. Is there a placement? Yes, placement test. Contact me, and then we can talk more about placement test. We are talking. We're learning Mandarin. Cantonese is for one of the local dialects for Guangdong province. So we're learning the standard Mandarin Chinese. And somebody asked, Claire, did you study abroad and where?
I studied abroad in Taiwan, but specifically Hsinchu, Taiwan. And I was there for 2 months, but there's kids from the program who went kind of mostly between Hsinchu and Taipei.
Thank you. How many number of Chinese classes do you take each semester? Just one. So you go with the sequence. You start with, if you have 0 knowledge of Chinese, which is most of our students, you start from ni hao, hello. By the time you graduate from college, you are at the native speakers level, which is really cool. Okay, so and can you major in marine biology and minor in Chinese? Yes, but I would say it takes about the same time to get a minor in Chinese. And about the same time comparing the minor and major. So I would recommend you talking to me and we can figure out what to do. Okay, civil engineering. Okay, all right, good. If you don't know a lot of writing, yes, if you don't know a lot of writing, you start with us in level 1. And also now we're going technology oriented. So you can type Chinese instead of painstakingly write everything with your hand. So one thing I did not say is that URI has the best Chinese programs, one of the best in the US, and we have a very strong teaching team. So our faculty is representing internationally pretty often, and then you are in a very small and close-knit community. So I know we're running short on time tonight, but please feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Claire. We'll put our email address in the chat. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And I just wanted to highlight something that Dr. Wu touched on when I believe it was, yes, it was Ali asked about the placement test. And I want to reiterate how this works for pretty much all languages at the university, where if you have some advanced knowledge and you don't want to start from ni hao, as Dr. Wu put it, but you've got a little bit of background knowledge, Dr. Wu said, just come talk to her. And that's really how much of it goes is you go to someone in the department that speaks the language that you're interested in studying. They'll have a conversation with you. They'll learn a little bit about your oral proficiency, any of your writing abilities, how well you can comprehend it, and they'll make sure that you get placed at the appropriate level at the university. And it can really go into some incredible opportunities. As Dr. Wu talked, the funding that the flagship program has here allows for some really incredible opportunities with studying abroad. And, you know, I know if Dr. DeBruin were still on with us, she would be singing the praises of this program. She's a big proponent of everybody should learn a foreign language while they're in college, because not just in terms of you as a person, but if you want to think about it in terms of economic return, the economic opportunities that come up for students who have increased their language proficiency in a language other than English. And the research shows that they have greater job opportunities, greater earning potential right from the time they graduate. So it's not just an investment in a nice skill that, oh, wouldn't it be cool to speak Chinese, but can also be an incredibly valuable thing for you to do during your time at the collegiate level. So thank you to Dr. Wu for sharing all that information. And again, they put their contact info in the chat. Please reach out to Claire for the student experience or Dr. Wu to learn more about the programmatic elements of the Chinese flagship program. And thank you so much to everyone who stayed on for the long haul with us. I appreciate you all being here and learning so much about the URI Honors Program and then the URI Chinese Flagship Program. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. We hope to see you on campus sometime this spring and then hopefully joining the RAM fam this coming fall. So take care, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.